Welcome back to Stacktastic, returning from hiatus after Comic-Con. And speaking of Comic-Con, today I'm going to clarify one of the biggest and most confusing stories coming out of the pop culture convention, Marvel Now. What exactly is it, and who's in and who's out? We'll get ready for some cold hard facts and speculation in this very episode. Also, stay tuned for the last part of the show, because this week I want you to buy a comic book so badly and feel so strongly about it, it's the only one I'm recommending. Let's get started. They might not admit it publicly, but I've heard more than one comic book professional whisper behind closed doors that DC Comics' New 52 single-handedly saved the comic book industry. Not only did the New 52 easily push Marvel out of the top 10 selling comic books every month, but DC has taken reaching out to new readers seriously. For instance, all the Before Watchmen ads you've most likely seen right here on YouTube, perhaps even before this very episode. Yes, not promoting a movie or a TV series or toys based on comics, but the comic books themselves. How revolutionary. So while Marvel says Marvel Now is not a reboot, make no mistake that it's the publisher's answer to the New 52, an invitation for new readers to join in and for lost readers to return. What is Marvel Now? Well, just as Marvel promised, Avengers vs. X-Men is going to dramatically change the Marvel Universe. And while the Phoenix does bring about rebirth, first comes death for pretty much every current Marvel title. But unlike with the New 52, it won't be all at once. Instead, the titles will die and be reborn in waves, and as that happens, Marvel will release a new Marvel Now book each week. The first will be in October with Uncanny Avengers #1 by Remender and John Cassaday. Here, the Avengers and X-Men will team up to fight a Red Skull copy woken up straight from the 1940s, meaning his hate is fresh and he still thinks Nazis have a fighting chance. And what race does he want to kill off now? Mutants. Now, when talking about Uncanny Avengers, Remender makes quite a point of putting the spotlight on Havok, who he says has always been in Cyclops' shadow. To me, this indicates that Cyclops isn't going to make it out of AVX. There's also this upcoming little variant cover, which also seems to point toward a bitter end for Cyclops. Then in this new Cyclops wearing an outfit that only a newbie could be talked into wearing. And by newbie, I'm referring to the fact that Red Skull won't be the only man out of time in Marvel Now. Yes, over an all-new X-Men, Brian Michael Bendis is bringing the original Fab Five straight from the 1960s for a very special and real version of Days of Future Past. But this isn't a one-arc trip. Bendis is keeping these kids around, further making me feel that current Cyclops is going to bite the dust. In fact, I think all or most of the Phoenix Five won't make it out of AVX. And on top of that variant cover, I don't see Emma Frost mentioned anywhere in the Marvel Now promotional materials, and she is an audience favorite. So I guess it's Emma's turn to die and for Jean to live. That's right, bringing back the Fab Five means Jean Grey returns to current continuity, an idea I'm 100% against. Jean Grey has lived through so much and been part of so many iconic X-Men storylines, yet this teenage version hasn't experienced any of that, and therefore learned nothing nor grown as a character. That really makes her just Hope 2.0, and I think we can all agree that Hope 1.0 was a failed rogue ripoff experiment. The other title that's been announced is Avengers, with Jonathan Hickman and Jerome Opena, where the team will essentially have a rotating roster and focus on more obscure characters like Shang-Chi. Also expect a more intergalactic feel to the team's adventures to play into Hickman's mad sci-fi bent. The rest of the new titles are under wraps, but we do know that some version of Cyclops won't be the only one sporting a new look. Iron Man, the Hulk, and the Scarlet Witch also get new duds, and for some reason Havok goes back to this look. Also looks like Cable will return to action sans hope, while Rocket Raccoon and the Invisible Woman will finally come off the bench and into the game. I've long felt that Sue Storm should lead the Avengers, so at least this is a start. Plus, Red She-Hulk gets her own book, and a whole bunch of stuff is teased with this image, such as a new focus on Ant-Man, he is getting his own movie, and some kind of Kid Loki and Wiccan team-up, which is a pretty brilliant idea. Now, how will we be able to identify these Marvel Now titles? Well, besides a new one debuting every week, Marvel has also decided to change its covers. No longer will the title be at the top, but instead wherever the artist decides, as Marvel Chief Creative Officer Joe Cassaday has mandated that all comic book covers should be more like movie posters. Pertinent information like the issue number and barcode will be along the bottom, and thus easily cut out when the covers are presented online as thumbnails for customers buying digital comics or ordering and reserving hard copies. So what do you think of all this? Are you inspired to start reading, read more, or return to Marvel Comics? And do you like this staggered launch, or do you think the New 52 one-month blitz was a better idea? Me, I'm always game when the big two take major risks, but I always like to move forward, which means the Red Skull and the original X-Men doing the time warp dance is my biggest concern. But the one thing I don't get overall is that if Marvel Now is not a reboot, how's that going to fix the problem of potential new readers being discouraged by decades of previous continuity? That really shouldn't ever matter though, and advertising dollars should be spent getting that point across. Just dive in, and you'll pick it up as you go along, with a little help from the movies, animated series, Wikipedia, and think about the ink. So, what's that one comic book I think you should pick up this week? One that came out July 10th. Trust me, circle back and pick up Batman Earth 1 by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Now I know why Jeff Johns' monthly titles have been so weak. He's been orchestrating this beauty. At 144 pages, it is a bit rushed, kind of like The Dark Knight Rises, but the way Johns has reworked the origin of Batman is nothing short of brilliant. And since it's an origin story, that means anyone can pick it up and enjoy. Johns has managed to make changes that are fresh yet still rooted in the Batman mythos, which makes for a very exciting read. Seriously, I finished it in an hour. I'd say my favorite reworking would have to be Martha Wayne's lineage, which is so perfect it should become canon. This one simple change opens up a whole new world into Bruce Wayne's psychology and makes it all the more realistic that he'd become Batman. And Harvey Bullock? Wait until you meet Harvey Bullock. Wait until you meet everyone. And pay attention to every line, as there are many, many hints dropped at the larger Batman universe that Johns is reinventing. This is the kind of reboot the New 52 is supposed to be and should be all about. Batman Earth 1 is as good as Brian Azzarello's Joker, and if it had been twice as long, would be as good as Batman Year 1. So please, go buy it, not only because it's great, but so that DC Comics continues the story. I've included a link in the video description where you can order it at the best price I could find, $14 plus shipping. Sorry it's not available as a digital comic, but it is for some reason available for Kindle, also via this link. And that's this week's Stacktastic. I'm Grace Randolph for Think About the Ink, and I hope to see you back on Friday for a very special look at Adventure Time. Until then, happy reading.